My son and daughter-in-law had been married for years without children, so they decided to adopt a little girl from Mercy Children's Home. At the adoption celebration party, a mysterious woman pulled me aside and whispered urgently, "That child shouldn't be here." I was stunned, thinking she must be crazy. "Why would you say something like that?" I demanded. What she told me next left me frozen in shock. I appreciate you listening to this story. Before that mysterious woman reveals what she knows, tell me in the comments, where are you right now and what time is it? Let's connect. I should have known something was wrong the moment Scarlett smiled at me across the September sunshine. The party was perfect, too perfect. White balloons drifted against the barn's weathered wood, children laughed in the pasture, and my son Cole stood with his arm around his wife, beaming like he'd won the lottery. In his other arm, 5-year-old Harper clung to him, her dark curls bouncing as she reached for the cake. Our new granddaughter, the child Cole and Scarlett had spent months adopting. I'd been a surgeon for 35 years at Mercy Regional. I knew how to read people, the micro-expressions that revealed pain. They wouldn't admit the tension in shoulders that spoke of secrets. Scarlett had that tension. She'd had it since the day Cole brought her home 4 years ago, a corporate attorney from Denver, with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Dad, come take a picture with us," Cole called out, waving me over. I crossed the lawn, feeling the weight of my 70 years and the 5 years since Cordelia died. My wife would have loved this, a granddaughter finally, after all the years Cole and Scarlett tried for a baby. But Cordelia wasn't here. She'd never meet Harper, and somehow that absence felt sharper today than it had in months. Harper looked up at me with shy brown eyes as I approached. "Hi, Grandpa," she whispered. Something flickered in Scarlett's expression, too quick to catch, but I saw it. Fear, calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by that practiced attorney's smile. "Paul, thank you for hosting this here at the ranch," Scarlett said smoothly. "It means everything to us." I nodded, studying the little girl in Cole's arms. Harper seemed healthy, well-adjusted. The adoption agency had assured them of that. But I couldn't shake the feeling I was missing something crucial, something hiding in plain sight. The party rolled on around us. Briggs Sullivan, my old army buddy, manned the grill. Judge Fletcher Kane shared war stories near the porch. The entire community had turned out to celebrate. But my attention kept drifting back to Scarlett, watching how she positioned herself, always between Harper and me. Then I saw her. Marlo Winters stood near the driveway, her car door still open behind her. She was late unusual for someone as punctual as Marlo. She'd been a nurse at Mercy for 20 years before retiring. More importantly, she was someone I'd saved a decade ago, pulling her from a rolled vehicle on Highway 550 in a snowstorm. We'd stayed in touch, the kind of connection that forms when you hold someone's life in your hands. But today Marlo looked nothing like her composed self. Her face was pale, her movements agitated. She scanned the crowd until her eyes locked on mine. Then she started toward me with purpose. "Paul," her voice was low, urgent, "I need to speak with you, privately, now." Scarlett's head whipped around at Marlo's tone. For a split second I saw naked panic flash across my daughter-in-law's face before she controlled it. "Marlo, what's wrong?" I asked. "Not here." Her hand gripped my elbow surprisingly strong. "Your study, please." I glanced at Cole, who was distracted by Harper trying to blow out candles. Scarlett watched us like a hawk tracking prey. But Marlo's urgency overrode my hesitation. We crossed the lawn and entered the house, the party noise fading behind us. The walk down the hallway to my study felt longer than usual, each step echoing Cordelia's absence. I opened the door, and Marlo practically pushed inside, waiting until I closed it, before turning to face me. She was trembling, pale, and when she looked at me, I saw something in her eyes I'd only seen once before that night on Highway 550, when death had been seconds away. "Paul," she said quietly, "it's about Harper, about your daughter-in-law's adoption." My chest tightened. What about it? What she said next would change everything I thought I knew about my family. "That child shouldn't be here, Dr. Graves." Marlo's words cut like a scalpel between my ribs, precise and impossible to ignore. I stared at her, struggling to understand. "What do you mean?" I asked. Harper's adoption was legal. Cole showed me the paperwork. "Legal doesn't mean honest." Her hands shook as she pulled a manila folder from her purse. "I volunteer at Mercy Children's Home in Bayfield. Every Tuesday for 6 years. I help with intake and records. Your granddaughter came from there, Paul, but she isn't who your son thinks." The room seemed to shrink. "Explain." She opened the folder. Inside was a faded photo of a newborn red-faced and wrapped in a hospital blanket. 5.5 years ago, a woman came late at night. She said her name was Jennifer Adams. The baby was 2 days old, no husband, no family. She said she couldn't provide, so the director accepted the surrender. Marlowe pointed to a tiny mark behind the baby's left ear, a perfect heart. Harper has the same mark. Exactly the same, she said. I noticed it today when she reached for the balloons. I told myself for weeks it was coincidence. It isn't. She slid forward an intake form. The social security number was fake. The address was a vacant lot. The phone was disconnected. But I remember her face. I always will. My fists tightened, and the woman who abandoned that baby looked exactly like your daughter-in-law. Same height, build, hair. I'd risk my nursing license on it. The truth hit like an avalanche. Scarlett had given birth to Harper, abandoned her, then years later, arranged an adoption to bring her back as someone else's child. Why, I whispered. The money, I said, answering myself. My estate. $4.5 million. Marlowe nodded. If Harper is legally adopted by Cole and Scarlett, she becomes an heir. When you die, the inheritance flows through your son to his daughter. Scarlett controls everything through the child. It was elegant and cruel. Scarlett couldn't give Cole a child, but she could smuggle her own daughter into the family, positioning her to inherit the ranch. The investments, everything Cordelia and I built over 40 years. There's more. Marlowe showed me copies of intake photos, the birthmark visible from every angle. I made duplicates. If you need proof. The study door opened. Scarlett stood there, Harper on her hip, a lawyer's smile fixed in place. Her eyes flicked from Marlowe to the folder on my desk. Paul, it's time to cut the cake, she said smoothly. Harper wants Grandpa. Then she looked at Marlowe. Have we met? An old friend, I said, sliding the folder beneath a journal. Marlowe Winters. Scarlett. Lovely party, Marlowe replied calmly. I should go. As she passed, she pressed the folder into my hand. Scarlett watched closely, saying nothing. Shall we, Scarlett asked, turning toward the hall. I followed them back into sunlight and music children laughing under September gold. But all I could see was the heart-shaped mark behind Harper's ear, and the woman who once abandoned her, now holding her close, pretending devotion while plotting to steal everything I had left. I didn't know it then, but that moment declared war, and Scarlett knew I was coming. It was already too late for innocence, too late for mercy, and every step she took told me the game had finally begun, and there would be consequences. The chocolate raspberry cake, Scarlett said it was Harper's favorite. Watching her slice cleanly through the layers with practiced precision, I wondered how she knew the favorite flavor of a child she'd supposedly met only 3 weeks ago. I forced a smile as she handed out slices on cartoon paper plates. Cole stood beside her, one arm around Harper, who bounced with excitement. Guests laughed and snapped photos, oblivious to the performance playing out in front of them. Speech, Grandpa, someone called. I raised my glass of lemonade, steadying my voice. To Harper. Welcome to the Graves family. May you grow strong on this land, surrounded by people who I stopped myself just in time, who will always look out for you. Scarlett met my eyes over Harper's curls. Something cold passed between us before she smiled and clinked her glass with Cole's. My son was radiant. The way he looked at Harper, tender, protective, completely smitten, hurt more than Marlowe's revelation. In 3 weeks, this child had become his world. How could I tell him the adoption was a lie without breaking him? Harper reached up with sticky fingers. Grandpa, I have an OE. See? She tilted her head. There it was, small, distinct. A heart-shaped birthmark behind her left ear, exactly where it had been in the intake photo from 5.5 years ago. That's not an OE, sweetheart, Scarlett said, quickly pulling her back. It's just a special mark. Makes you unique. Does it hurt? Harper asked. Not at all. Scarlett's smile stayed bright, but her fingers pressed too firmly into Harper's shoulder. A quiet warning to stop talking. I turned away before my face betrayed me. As guests began to leave, I played the gracious host, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, promising photos. Scarlett hovered nearby like opposing counsel, always listening, always watching. Finally, Cole carried a sleepy Harper toward his truck. We should get her home, Dad. Big day. Of course. Drive safe. Scarlett lingered at the door, studying me. You seem distracted tonight. Everything okay? The question was a trap. Just missing your mother-in-law, I said evenly. Cordelia would have loved this. A granddaughter, finally. Something flickered across her face, relief or suspicion. She would have, she said softly. I hope we made her proud. After they left, I gathered plates and cups, grateful for the distraction. That's when Briggs Sullivan stepped in from the barn, moving with the deliberate calm of a man who'd spent 40 years in uniform. "Need help cleaning up?" he asked. In the kitchen, under harsh fluorescent lights, I told him everything. Marlowe, the birthmark, Jennifer Adams, the abandoned baby, the inheritance Scarlett would control through Harper. Briggs leaned against the counter, face set. Vietnam had bonded us deeper than blood. If anyone would believe me, it was him. "You need to call Sheriff Ramsey," he said. "And say what?" "That my daughter-in-law abandoned her own child and adopted her back. Years later," I shook my head. "We have a photo, a birthmark, and a volunteer's memory. Scarlett's a corporate attorney. She'll shred that before sunrise." "Then what's your move?" "I find proof, real proof, before she realizes how much I know." Briggs exhaled. People who abandon babies don't stop being dangerous. After he left, I stood alone in the kitchen Cordelia and I built, holding Marlowe's folder like it was explosive. Outside, September had turned cold. Inside, everything felt colder. That night I found something that turned suspicion into certainty. Past midnight, the bedroom felt unnaturally quiet. I spread Marlowe's folder across Cordelia's old writing desk, the same desk where she had balanced our household accounts for 40 years. Tonight it held evidence far darker than unpaid bills or tax forms. The intake photograph showed a newborn maybe 48 hours old, wrapped in a plain hospital blanket. The birthmark was unmistakable, a small heart-shaped mark behind the baby's left ear, the same mark Harper had pointed to earlier, calling it her OE. Beneath the photo was the surrender form. The signature read Jennifer Adams. The social security number was fake. The address was a vacant lot, the phone number disconnected. Jennifer Adams was a ghost. Marlowe's handwritten notes were precise and clinical. Woman in her late 20s, approximately 5'7", dark hair, athletic build, wearing an expensive watch, nervous demeanor, refused to hold the baby during intake, left within 10 minutes. I opened my laptop and began searching. Scarlett Marsh, Durango attorney. The results were clean and professional. Her law firm's website, a LinkedIn profile created 4 years ago, a few mentions in local court report, but before that, there was nothing. I tried variations. Scarlett Marsh, Denver. Scarlett Marsh, Colorado Law School. Every search ended the same way. 5 years ago, Scarlett Marsh did not exist online. No college photos. No tagged social media posts. No high school yearbooks. No traffic tickets or property records. For someone who supposedly lived in Colorado, her entire adult life, she had left no digital footprint at all. That alone was a warning. In the modern world, everyone leaves traces. Even people who hide leave shadows. Her bar license showed she had passed the exam 4 years ago. The record listed her as transferred from out of state. No law school named. Convenient. I leaned back, my surgeon's mind assembling the pattern. Scarlett Marsh was a constructed identity. Someone had built her deliberately piece by piece to enter Durango and target my family. The question was who she had been before. I changed tactics and searched for similar cases. Woman inherits estate, suspicious death, Colorado. Too broad, hedge fund manager, death girlfriend, inheritance, Denver. The third result made my blood stop. Hedge fund manager Landon Merrick, 42, dies in suspected suicide. The article was 6 years old. Merrick had fallen or jumped from his Denver penthouse. No note, no witnesses. Toxicology showed alcohol, but no drugs. The article mentioned an unnamed girlfriend who inherited his estate, estimated between $8 and $10 million. There was a photo from his memorial service. Standing in the background, partially obscured, was a woman who looked exactly like Scarlett. My hands shook as I opened related articles. Landon died in March 6 years ago. Harper would have been conceived around that time. Born in October. Abandoned in December at Mercy Children's Home. Then nothing until Scarlett appeared in Durango 4.5 years ago as a fully credentialed attorney, with a fabricated past positioning herself beside my son. The inheritance timeline fit perfectly. Landon's money, Harper's birth, the abandonment, then the careful creation of Scarlett Marsh to pursue another fortune. Mine. I could call Sheriff Ramsey immediately, but with what a suspicious death ruled suicide, a birthmark, and intake photos. Grief could make any old man look paranoid. I needed proof. Tomorrow I would drive to Denver and find someone who had known Landon Merrick, someone who could identify the woman in that photo. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The image showed my study window photographed from outside tonight. The curtains were visible. The lamp I'd left on cast shadows inside. The timestamp was less than an hour old. Below it a message read, "Careful what you dig up, old man. Accidents happen in the mountains." I crossed to the window. September darkness pressed against the glass. The yard was empty. No headlights, no movement. Whoever sent it was gone or watching. I locked every door, checked every window, and returned to the desk. The evidence lay spread out like a surgical tray. My phone stayed silent, but the threat lingered. I had spent 35 years saving lives. Now I had to expose the truth about Landon Merrick before Scarlett destroyed my family. Tomorrow, Denver. Tonight, I would not sleep. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I lied to my son. Just heading to Denver to visit an old colleague from Mercy, I told Cole over the phone at 7 a.m. My truck already packed. Thought I'd make a day of it. "That's great, Dad," he said warmly. "You've been too isolated since Mom passed. Scarlett's taking Harper to the Children's Museum today. We're really trying to make her feel at home." The words cut deeper than he knew. "That's wonderful, son. Give them both my love." After we hung up, I sat in the truck with the engine idling, staring at the ranch house where I'd raised Cole to value honesty above all else. Then I pulled onto Highway 550 and headed toward Denver. The drive took 6 hours through mountain passes and high desert. It was the same route where I'd found Marlo Winters a decade ago. Her car rolled in a snowstorm, her granddaughter barely breathing. I'd crawled through shattered glass, using my hands to stabilize Marlo's neck until paramedics arrived. Sometimes saving lives meant taking calculated risks. Today felt the same. Necessary. Dangerous. I used the drive to review what I knew. Scarlett appeared in Durango 4.5 years ago with a fabricated past. Before that, Victoria Lang in Denver with Landon Merrick. Before that, likely another name, another victim. The pattern was cruel and precise. Build an identity. Seduce a wealthy man, orchestrate his death, inherit, vanish, repeat. Cordelia would have seen through Scarlett instantly. My wife had always trusted instinct tempered by proof. Trust but verify Paul, she used to say. I was verifying now, years too late. The Denver Public Library archives sat underground, cool and smelling of old paper and chemicals. I requested every record related to Landon Merrick's death. The articles were clear. Landon Merrick, 42, hedge fund manager, estate valued at $8.5 million. Found dead on the pavement beneath his 12th floor penthouse on March 15th. Security footage showed him alone on his balcony at 2 a.m. No forced entry. Blood alcohol level .18. More than twice legal. The death was ruled suicide. Depression from market losses, the coroner said. The funeral photograph stopped my breath. Victoria Lang stood in the back row dressed in black, her face partly hidden by sunglasses, but the bone structure was unmistakable. The height, the posture, the deliberate distance from others. It was Scarlett. Younger by 6 years, hair lighter. Styled differently, but undeniably her. I cross-referenced Victoria Lang. She entered Landon's life 8 months before his death. No employment history, no family, no verifiable past. She inherited everything through a will updated 3 weeks before he died. The pattern was unmistakable. One article quoted Landon's sister, Rebecca Merrick. My brother was murdered. That woman poisoned him, got him drunk, and pushed him. The police won't listen because she left no proof. But I know what she is. The autopsy report was public. I read it like an operative report. High alcohol, yes, but also bruising on Landon's upper arms consistent with forceful gripping. Toxicology showed alcohol and trace benzodiazepines. Together they would leave someone disoriented, compliant, easy to control. Victoria Lang left Denver the day probate closed. No forwarding address, no digital trail. She erased herself. She reappeared as Scarlett Marsh in Durango targeting my son. I photographed every article, every record, every image linking Victoria to Scarlett. Then I searched for Rebecca Merrick. She still lived in Denver. Public records listed her as a high school teacher, 45, unmarried. The woman dismissed for 6 years as a grieving sister chasing ghosts. At 4 p.m., I stepped into the library parking lot. The autumn sun dipped toward the mountains. My phone felt heavy as I pulled up Rebecca's number. One call, one conversation, and I would know if Scarlett had murdered before. Rebecca had been trying to expose a killer for 6 years. I was about to give her that chance. I stood in the Denver Public Library parking lot watching rush hour traffic surge past. It was just after 4 when I dialed Rebecca Merrick's number. She answered on the second ring. Hello? Miss Merrick, my name is Paul Graves. I'm calling about Victoria Lang. She's targeted another family mine. There was silence, then a tight breath. I knew she'd do it again. Has anyone died yet? The question hit hard. Not yet. She married my son 4 years ago. Last month she adopted a 5-year-old through what looks like fraud. How old was that child 6 years ago? I did the math. A newborn. Rebecca's voice cracked. She was pregnant when Landon died. I suspected it. Loose clothes. Wouldn't drink. She hid it. She swallowed. She killed my brother, took his money, then abandoned her baby. What kind of person does that? The kind who plans ahead? I said. I need everything you know, and I'll need you to testify if this reaches court. I will, but be warned. I have photos, texts from Landon about her controlling him, timelines that don't add up. Nothing strong enough to reopen the case. Police dismissed me as a sister who couldn't accept suicide. Tell me what happened. Her voice steadied, practiced. Landon changed his will 2 weeks before he died, leaving everything to Victoria. She called it romantic. It wasn't. He was careful. That will felt forced. The night he died, she called 911 sobbing, saying she found him on the pavement. Cameras showed him alone on the balcony, but his blood alcohol was .18. Landon barely drank. That level made no sense. Toxicology showed benzodiazepines, I said. Yes. She claimed he took them for anxiety. His phone vanished before police checked it. She controlled the narrative of the grieving girlfriend, too fragile to suspect. I pictured Scarlett managing Harper's adoption with the same precision. Send me everything. Photos, messages, timelines. I'll email it now. Mr. Graves, is your son in danger? I believe we all are. After we hung up, files began arriving. Photos of Landon and Victoria at charity events, her hand always on his arm, eyes sharp behind a smile. Texts from Landon. She won't let me see friends. Says they're bad influences. I'm 42 and feel supervised. The pattern was unmistakable. Isolation, control, elimination. At 5, I started west, toward Durango. 6 hours home. 20 minutes in my phone showed a missed call from Cole. I pulled over and called back. Dad, where are you? His voice shook. Harper's saying things. About before. She remembers Scarlett. Cold flooded me. What did she say? Scarlett took her to the Children's Museum, then the grocery store. While Scarlett was inside, Harper talked about the white room where I was a baby, and the pretty lady who said goodbye. Dad, she remembers being abandoned. She remembers Scarlett. 5-year-old memories surfacing now. Where are you? Home. Scarlett isn't back yet. Keep Harper away from her. Don't let Scarlett know she talked. I'm 2 hours out. Can you keep them apart? You're scaring me. Trust me. Keep that little girl safe until I get there. I hung up and accelerated. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The image showed Cole and Harper on our front porch taken today. The angle came from the tree line. Below it, your son and the girl. Such a beautiful family. I'm watching them now. Drive carefully. Accidents happen on mountain roads, especially at night. The sun was sinking as my speed climbed. 2 hours to reach my son and Harper. 2 hours while a killer watched them. I'd never felt more helpless or more determined. I made it home in 90 minutes instead of 2 hours. The speeding ticket would be worth it. It was nearly 7 p.m. when I burst through the ranch house door. Cole was pacing the living room like a caged animal. Harper sat cross-legged on the rug coloring with crayons, seemingly unaware of the tension radiating from him. Dad, Cole said tightly. She keeps saying Scarlett is her first mommy. What does that mean? I crossed the room and knelt beside Harper, keeping my voice steady despite my pounding heart. Sweetheart, can you tell me what you remember from before you came to live with Daddy Cole? Harper looked up, her brown eyes calm and sincere. A pretty lady came to the white room when I was really little. She was crying. She smelled like flowers, the purple ones Daddy has outside. She pointed toward the lavender bushes beyond the window. She said goodbye, baby, and left. Then the nurses took care of me and the other kids. We all slept in the white room. My chest tightened, and now the pretty lady came back. Harper smiled brightly. She's my new mommy, but I remember her smell. Same smell. She went back to drawing stick figures of a woman, a tiny baby, in a building with many windows. Cole stepped closer. Harper, honey, maybe you're confused. Maybe it was a dream. No, she said firmly. It was the place with all the little friends. Miss Marlowe gave me star cookies. I remember. Cole, I said sharply, outside, now. He followed me onto the porch, shutting the door behind us. Through the window, Harper hummed as she colored. Dad, I know you've never trusted Scarlett, but stop. I pulled out my phone and showed him the intake photo Marlowe had given me, a newborn with a heart-shaped birthmark. Marlowe Winters volunteers at Mercy Children's Home. She recognized Scarlett as the woman who abandoned this baby 5.5 years ago. Look at the mark. It's identical to Harper's. Cole stared, his hands shaking. That's impossible. Scarlett said Harper's birth mother was a teenager. She said everything was legal. It wasn't. Scarlett is that mother. Harper is her biological child. The color drained from Cole's face. He gripped the railing to stay upright. Why would she abandon her baby, then adopt her back years later? I chose my words carefully. For money. My estate is worth $4.5 million. If Harper is legally your daughter, she's an heir. When I die, the inheritance flows through you to her. Scarlett controls Harper. She controls everything. Cole sank onto the steps, burying his face in his hands. She used me for 4 years. I'm sorry, son. How long have you known? Since the adoption party. I needed proof. I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. He looked up, eyes hollow. What do we do? We call Detective Sloan Ramsey, quietly, tonight. But first we protect Harper. And when Scarlett comes back, we act normal. She can't know. Cole nodded, jaw tight. I can do that. An engine roared up the driveway, gravel spraying. We both tensed. My hand went to my phone. But it wasn't Scarlett. Briggs Sullivan's battered Ford skidded to a stop. He jumped out before the engine died. Paul, he called urgently. We need to talk. Now, whatever had brought Briggs here, it wasn't good. Briggs was out of his truck before it fully stopped moving, with the urgency of a man who'd spent 40 years recognizing danger. She's on her way back. 10 minutes, maybe less. I saw her car leaving town. How did you know to come? Cole asked. Paul called me from Denver. Briggs said, scanning the property with practiced precision. Told me if anything felt off, I should check on you. What's the plan? We need Harper away from Scarlett tonight, I said, without raising suspicion. Sleep over at your place, Briggs suggested. Natural request from a grandfather. Cole nodded, though his face was gray. And I stay here, act normal. How do I even look at her, knowing his voice broke? You can, I said quietly, for Harper. We had 8 minutes before headlights swept up the drive. Scarlett's silver Lexus slid into place. She stepped out with grocery bags, smiling brightly. But her eyes assessed everything at once. My truck still warm. Briggs' presence, Cole's strained expression. Sorry I'm late, she said lightly. Traffic was awful. Her gaze lingered. Everything okay? You all look serious. Just talking cattle prices, I said easily. Boring ranch stuff. She turned to Cole, concern sliding into place. Honey, you don't look well. Headache, he said tightly. Long day. She touched his forehead gently. You should rest. I'll make dinner. That stew you like. Then to me, stay Paul. There's plenty. Actually, I said, I was hoping Harper could stay with me tonight. Grandpa time. Pancakes in the morning, horses at sunrise. For a flicker of a second, something sharp crossed Scarlett's face. Then it vanished. She's just settling in. Maybe another time. Grandpa Paul Harper burst out, eyes shining. Can I go, please? Scarlett recalculated. Refusal now would look wrong. Of course, sweetheart. She smiled at me. Why don't you pick her up after dinner? I'll pack her bag. Perfect, I said. Inside, Cole leaned close. The way she looked at you, it was like she was deciding how to remove a problem. Briggs squeezed my shoulder. I'll park down the road. Keep watch. As they went inside, I pulled out my phone to call Detective Ramsey. Before I could, it buzzed. Unknown number. The photo showed my truck on the highway earlier that day. Someone had followed me to Denver. The message read, Very thorough. Doctor. Rebecca Merrick. Landon's records. Busy day. Some secrets should stay buried. Like Landon. Like Cordelia. Cordelia, my wife. Dead 5 years ago from a sudden stroke. No warning signs, no history. One moment alive, the next gone. 4 months later, Scarlett Marsh appeared. Met my grieving son. Attached herself with precision. Dinner's ready, Scarlett called cheerfully. I stared at the message as understanding crashed over me. Scarlett hadn't found a grieving man by chance. She'd created one. She'd killed my wife to make Cole vulnerable. Landon Merrick wasn't the beginning. He was just another step. Landon. Cordelia. The pattern wasn't forming. It had always been there. This wasn't fraud. This wasn't opportunism. It was serial murder. And I was about to sit at the table with her that night with Harper asleep in Cordelia's old sewing room and Briggs standing guard. I did something I'd never done in 35 years as a doctor. I illegally accessed medical records to learn whether my wife's death had been murder. Mercy Regional Medical Center was quiet at 2 a.m. The overnight staff recognized me. Dr. Graves, retired surgeon, a familiar presence. No one questioned when I used my emergency physician credentials to enter the system. They assumed I was consulting on an old case. They didn't know I was hunting a killer. Cordelia Ann Graves. Date of death, October 12th, 5 years ago. Age 65. My hand shook as I opened her file and reread words I hadn't truly processed back then. Ischemic stroke. Massive cerebral infarction caused by thromboembolic event. Found unconscious at home by son at approximately 10:30 a.m. Transported by ambulance. Arrived ER at 11:05. Unresponsive. Pupils fixed and dilated. CT scan confirmed extensive left hemisphere damage. Patient expired at 2:15 p.m., despite aggressive intervention. I remembered the day with surgical clarity. Cole's frantic call, racing to the hospital, holding Cordelia's hand as machines confirmed what I already knew. My wife of 40 years was gone within 4 hours. Toxicology appeared routine blood, alcohol. Negative common medications. Therapeutic. No obvious toxins. But I knew what wasn't tested. Exotic anticoagulants. Certain alkaloids. Agents capable of triggering thrombosis while mimicking natural stroke. Substances requiring specialized screening tests no one orders without suspicion. And I'd never suspected. I'd been a grieving widower, accepting the explanation every physician gave me strokes sometimes happen, without warning. I scrolled to the intake notes. One line stopped me cold. Patient's son reports mother had coffee with a new friend from church, approximately 90 minutes prior to collapse. Patient complained of dizziness and disorientation, afterward attributed symptoms to excess caffeine. Son found her unconscious in garden at 10:30. A new friend from church. Cordelia had been devout active in our small Presbyterian congregation. That autumn, she mentioned meeting someone new, young, charming, interested in gardening. I'd been glad she'd found companionship. What if that friend was Scarlett testing vulnerabilities? Poisoning my wife with coffee and kindness? I built the timeline with ruthless precision. October 12th, Cordelia dies. January 8th, Scarlett Marsh establishes residency in Durango. February 14th, Cole meets Scarlett at a charity auction. August 20th, engagement. December 3rd, marriage. 4 months from death to infiltration. 14 months from murder to marriage. The pattern was unmistakable. I photographed every page of Cordelia's file, illegal, unethical grounds for losing my license. I didn't care. My wife deserved justice. Driving home through pre-dawn darkness, my mind mapped the next steps. Proving murder meant exhumation. Advanced toxicology, forensic pathology looking specifically for thrombosis-inducing agents. Exhumation required a court order. That required Detective Sloan Ramsey reopening the case. That required Judge Fletcher Kane, my longtime friend, to sign off. My phone would start ringing at dawn. Guilt pressed down hard. If I'd questioned Cordelia's death, and if I'd demanded deeper testing, maybe I would have stopped Scarlett before she reached Cole. Before Harper. Before another life was destroyed. I pulled into the ranch driveway at 4 a.m. Harper slept peacefully in the sewing room where Cordelia once made quilts and hummed hymns. Briggs sat at the kitchen table rifle across his lap, every inch the lawman he used to be. Anything, I asked quietly. She drove by twice, Briggs said. Midnight and 2. Slowed down both times, checking if Harper was here. She's getting desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. At dawn I call Ramsey, I said, then Kane. By tomorrow night we'll have proof Scarlett killed Cordelia, and Harper stays safe. And Cole? I looked toward the sewing room. Cole will survive. Graves men always do. And Scarlett? She's going to learn that killing a man's wife has consequences. But I was learning something too. Survival sometimes means facing truths that shatter everything you believed about your own life. 6 a.m. I stood on my ranch porch watching the sun bleed orange across the Colorado mountains. My phone pressed to my ear as it rang. Detective Sloan Ramsey answered on the 4th ring, her voice heavy with sleep. Paul, this better be life or death. Multiple deaths, I said. I need your help. I heard her sit up. I'm listening. I gave her the summary with surgical precision. Scarlett Marsh's pattern. Landon Merrick, 6 years ago in Denver. My wife Cordelia, 5 years ago here, now my son Cole. Harper was Scarlett's biological child, abandoned at Mercy Children's Home. then fraudulently adopted to position herself as heir to my $4.5 million estate. Silence stretched. Jesus Christ, Sloane said. If that's true, we're talking serial murder and adoption fraud. What evidence? Harper's birthmark matches intake photos. Scarlett used a fake identity, Victoria Lang, with Merrick and inherited $8 million after he jumped. Cordelia's death has medical irregularities. I have testimony from Merrick's sister, photos, records, timelines. I need an official statement. Bring everything. What about Harper and Cole? If Scarlett suspects an investigation, she could flee. Or worse. Sloane's voice steadied. Where's Harper now? With me. Briggs Sullivan is here armed. Scarlett doesn't know I suspect murder yet. Keep Harper there. I'll request an emergency welfare warrant. I'll need to interview Harper gently, but it's necessary. She's 5, I said. This will traumatize her. Less than leaving her with a suspected killer. Be here at 8, and don't tell Cole yet. One more thing. I need exhumation of my wife, advanced toxicology. That needs Judge Kane, she said. You'll need a strong reason. I'll have one before 8. After we hung up, I showered and assembled my evidence like preparing for surgery. Every photo, every record, every thread tying Scarlett to death. At 6:30, Cole called whispering, Dad, Scarlett knows something's wrong. She's demanding Harper back. Says it's inappropriate she stayed over. Stall her. I tried. She's threatening her lawyer. Says you're interfering with parental rights. Tell her I took Harper to breakfast. Grandpa tradition, 2 hours. A crash sounded. Cole's voice sharpened. Scarlett, stop. Her voice cut through. If Paul won't bring her back, I'll get her myself. Where's your father's ranch? You know where it is? I'm coming now. The line went dead. 6:45. Scarlett was already driving. I threw my truck into gear and called Briggs. She's coming. Lock down. Don't open the door. Already secure, he said calmly. I pushed 80 on the back road's gravel spraying. Scarlett's Lexus had a head start. I pulled into my driveway as her silver car swung in behind me, blocking my exit. She was out instantly, striding toward the porch, fury beneath her composure. Paul, this is kidnapping. Bring Harper out now. I stepped onto the porch, blocking the door. Behind me, the deadbolt slid home. She's sleeping. This isn't appropriate. I'm her mother, Scarlett said smoothly. I decide. I met her eyes. Are you her mother now, Scarlett? Or were you her mother 5 years ago when you abandoned her at Mercy Children's Home under a false name? Her face went still. The mask, the devoted wife, the loving mother, the charming daughter-in-law, froze. Then something shifted behind her eyes, something cold and ancient, and utterly without remorse. And just like that, the mask fell. Scarlett went absolutely still. For 3 heartbeats, the mask vanished. I saw the cold fury beneath the predator, weighing attack or retreat. Then, with visible effort, she mastered herself. I don't know what you're talking about, she said coolly. Someone has been feeding you lies. Marlowe Winters doesn't lie, I replied. Neither do medical records or the intake photographs showing Harper's distinctive birthmark, the same one behind her left ear. Her eyes narrowed. You've been investigating me. I'm protecting my family, what I should have done 5 years ago before Cordelia's conveniently timed stroke. She laughed sharp and brittle. You're insane. Cordelia had a natural stroke. I wasn't even in Durango then. Weren't you? Or were you the new friend from church who had coffee with my wife that morning, the one who made her dizzy? Something cracked. You can't prove anything. We'll see. She turned toward her car, then stopped. When she looked back, pretense was gone. What remained was ancient hungry without conscience. You should have left this alone, old man, she said softly. You and Cordelia and Cole had everything I never did. Money, land, respect, a legacy. I deserved those things. I worked for them. I earned them. You killed people to steal them. Her smile chilled me. Prove it. No bodies to exhume, no witnesses. Anyone will believe no evidence that survives court. Just a grieving widower's delusions. She opened the door. I'm calling my lawyer and social services. Harper belongs with me. By tonight, she'll be back where she belongs with her mother. The Lexus purred, gravel spraying as she tore down the driveway toward town. I stood there, heart-hammering, wondering if I'd made everything worse. Then Briggs stepped onto the porch, grinning. Did you get all that? Get what? He pointed up. Under the eave, the security camera Cole installed at Scarlett's insistence blinked red. Every word Briggs said, especially her knowledge of Cordelia's stroke and the church friend before she should have. That's consciousness of guilt. Relief hit so hard my knees wobbled. It's not a confession, but it's admissions only the killer would know. He pulled out his phone. We secure the footage now. My phone rang. Detective Sloan. Paul Judge Kane signed the exhumation warrant this morning. Forensic pathology will test for exotic toxins, thallium plant, alkaloids, pharmaceuticals that mimic stroke. Results in 48 hours. Where are you? At the ranch with Briggs and Harper. Sloane Scarlett just gave us a partial confession. On camera. Silence. What did she say? I summarized. Sloane cut in sharp. Bring the footage to the station immediately. We'll make forensic copies before she claims tampering. And don't engage her again. Cornered killers are reckless. After we hung up, Briggs asked, "What's the plan?" We go to the station. Turn over the footage, medical records, everything. Let the law handle it. He nodded, hand resting on his rifle. And if the law moves too slow? I didn't answer. I went inside to check Harper sleeping peacefully in Cordelia's old sewing room, unaware her biological mother had just threatened to reclaim her. For the first time in days, I felt hope. We had evidence, witnesses, and Scarlett rattled enough to air. The exhumation would prove Cordelia was murdered. The camera showed guilt. Harper was safe with armed protection. Yet as I downloaded the footage, my hands shook. A cornered predator is most dangerous, and Scarlett knew she was cornered. That knowledge hardened my resolve to move quickly, trust the process, protect the child, and prepare for whatever desperate, violent move Scarlett might attempt before justice finally caught her at the ranch tonight alone. Detective Ramsey had a plan, bait the line for the biggest fish. I just had to make sure my son wasn't the one who got strangled in the process. At the station, Sloane and I laid everything across her desk, like surgical instruments before an operation. Harper's intake photos with the unmistakable birthmark. Mercy Children's home records showing Jennifer Adams abandoning a newborn. Rebecca Merrick's testimony about Victoria Lang and Landon Merrick's suspicious death in Denver. Cordelia's medical records riddled with gaps. The security footage capturing Scarlett's partial confession. Sloane leaned back, arms crossed. Circumstantially, this is the strongest pattern case I've seen in 20 years. But for murder, we need more. Pattern, motive, opportunity, I said, frustration breaking through. What else is missing? A confession, she replied, or physical evidence that proves homicide. The exhumation will help, but toxicology takes at least 48 hours. Harper is at risk every day we wait. So what's the move? We forced Scarlett's hand, Sloane said. Controlled confrontation. She opened a legal pad, a filmed meeting. Everything legal. We present the evidence and watch how she reacts when cornered. She'll lawyer up and say nothing. Sociopaths have one weakness, ego. She believes she's smarter than everyone. Push the right pressure points and she'll slip. Sloane met my eyes. I want Cole to arrange a family dinner. You him, Scarlett. Tell her you want to clear the air. She'll come because she thinks she can manipulate you both. Cole won't agree to trap his wife. Then convince him. I found Cole an hour later at the Mountain View Cafe. He looked 10 years older, unshaven, hollow-eyed hands shaking as he stirred untouched coffee. Dad, he said, quietly sliding an envelope across the table. Scarlett's lawyer sent this. They're suing you for grandparent alienation, claiming you're mentally unstable since Mom died. She's controlling the narrative, I said. That's why we act now. I explained Sloane's plan. Cole's face drained of color. You want me to pretend everything's fine so you can ambush my wife. I hesitated, then placed Cordelia's medical records in front of him. Your mother's stroke shows signs consistent with poisoning. We're exhuming her body. In 48 hours, we'll know. I lowered my voice. Cole, if Scarlett thinks you're becoming a liability, you could be next. His hands went still. You really think she'd kill me? I think she's already killed twice. I won't gamble with your life. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he whispered, What do I do? Call her. Say I apologized. Say grief made me paranoid. Invite her to dinner tomorrow night at my place. Just the three of us. She'll come because she thinks she's won. My marriage won't survive this. It was built on lies. Better a broken marriage than a funeral. Cole pulled out his phone, hands trembling. Before he dialed, I made one more call video to Rebecca Merrick in Denver. I showed her a recent photo of Scarlett. That's her, Rebecca said, instantly tears forming. Victoria Lang, the woman who killed my brother. Can you fly here tomorrow? Detective Ramsey may need you. I'll be on the first flight. I've waited 6 years. Cole made the call. His voice was calm, apologetic, convincing. Scarlett, we need to talk. Can you come to Dad's for dinner tomorrow night? He apologized, said grief made him paranoid. He wants to make things right. A long pause. Then Scarlett's voice warm and soothing. Of course, sweetheart. I never wanted conflict. I love you. I love our family. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., just us. Harper stays with Briggs. Perfect, she said lightly. I'll bring dessert. When Cole hung up, he looked at me shaken. She believed it. Tomorrow night, I said quietly, this ends. Scarlett arrived at 7 o'clock sharp, carrying a homemade apple pie and a smile that could fool anyone who didn't know she'd killed at least 2 people. She wore a soft blue dress, the color Cordelia used to say brought out her eyes, and carried a bouquet of sunflowers. The apple pie was still warm cinnamon and sugar scenting the air. Cordelia's favorite dessert, a detail Scarlett would have researched carefully. Paul, thank you for this. She kissed Cole's cheek, then crossed to embrace me with apparent warmth. I know we got off to a rough start. I'm so glad we can move past it. I played my role with surgical precision. Family is most important. I was wrong to jump to conclusions. Grief makes us see things that aren't there. Cole wore the microphone Detective Sloan had provided, hidden under his shirt collar. Cameras disguised as smoke detectors captured every angle of my dining room. Outside, Sloan sat in an unmarked vehicle with recording equipment waiting. We sat at the table where Cordelia and I had shared 40 years of meals. I served beef stew from her old recipe, watching Scarlett compliment the cooking comment on the table settings, play the gracious guest. She was relaxed now, confident she'd won this battle. Cole barely ate his knuckles white around his fork, but his voice stayed steady when he spoke, asking about her day, nodding at appropriate moments. My son was a better actor than I'd given him credit for. After we'd pushed food around our plates long enough for politeness, I set down my fork. Scarlett, I want to understand something. Help me clear up these questions that have been bothering me. Her smile was patient, indulgent. Of course, Paul. What is it? Harper has a very distinctive birthmark, heart-shaped behind her left ear. I pulled a folder from beneath my chair. Orphanage records from 5 years ago show an abandoned infant with an identical birthmark. How do you explain that coincidence? Her smile didn't waver. Many children have birthmarks. It's not unusual. I slid the intake photograph across the table. The newborn, the mark clearly visible. This specific... Scarlett glanced at it, shrugged. Still doesn't prove anything. Birthmarks can look similar. Cole's voice was quiet but firm. Dad also found something interesting. The woman who abandoned that baby used the name Jennifer Adams. But the signature on the surrender form... He placed 2 documents side by side. That's your signature, Scarlett. I've seen you sign hundreds of times. For the first time, Scarlett's composure flickered. Her jaw clenched. That's ridiculous. Anyone can forge a signature. Perhaps, I said. But there's also your history. Or rather, the complete absence of it. I pulled out the research I'd compiled. Scarlett Marsh didn't exist before 5 years ago. No college records. No employment history before Durango. No social media presence. You appeared in this town like you fell from the sky. I value my privacy. Her voice had an edge now. Is that a crime? No, I met her eyes. But murder is. The silence that fell was heavy as a guillotine blade. Scarlett's face went absolutely still. When she spoke, her voice was cold as mountain ice. What did you say? 6 years ago, a hedge fund manager named Landon Merrick died in Denver. Apparent suicide from his penthouse balcony. His girlfriend, Victoria Lang, inherited $8.5 million. Then Victoria disappeared without a trace. I pushed another photograph across the table. Landon at a charity event, Victoria Lang, standing beside him, her face partially visible. Scarlett stared at the photo. Her expression was utterly blank, but I saw her mind working behind those calculating eyes. She was deciding in real time fight or flee, deny or admit attack or retreat. And in that moment, I saw the predator, fully exposed ancient patient, and absolutely without remorse. I just hoped Sloan was recording every second. Scarlett stared at the photograph of Victoria Lang and Landon Merrick for 3 long seconds. Then she stood so abruptly her chair scraped the hardwood floor. I don't have to listen to this, she said, voice hard as steel. Cole, we're leaving. Now. Cole didn't move. Sit down, Scarlett. She turned toward him, shock flashing across her face. What? I said, sit down, he repeated, his voice breaking. Dad isn't finished. For a moment, I thought she might bolt. Her eyes flicked to the door, the windows calculating escape routes. But Cole stood between her and the exit, and she must have sensed what waited outside. Slowly, reluctantly, she lowered herself back into the chair. Landon Merrick's sister never believed his death was a suicide, I continued. For 6 years, she's maintained his girlfriend poisoned him, staged the scene, and walked away with $8.5 million. Scarlett laughed brittle and hollow. This is insanity. You're accusing me because I look like some woman from years ago. Not just resemblance, I said, moving to the door. Let's ask someone who actually knew Victoria Lane. I opened it. Rebecca Merrick stepped into the dining room. All the color drained from Scarlett's face. Rebecca stared at the woman who had destroyed her family. "Hello, Victoria," she said quietly. "Or do you prefer Scarlett now?" "That's her," Rebecca said to me, her voice shaking. "That's the woman who killed my brother." Scarlett shot to her feet. "I don't know this woman." "This is a setup. Cole, they're trying to frame me." "You were at Landon's funeral," Rebecca interrupted. "Black dress, sunglasses, crying beautifully. I have photos. The police have your fingerprints from his apartment. You were Victoria Lane. You murdered my brother." Scarlett turned to Cole, panic bleeding through her composure. "Honey, please! You don't believe this, do you?" Cole's face was streaked with tears. "Did you kill Landon Merrick?" "No," she snapped. "I've never heard that name." I placed the final document on the table. The courier stamp was still fresh. My hands trembled. "My wife didn't die of a stroke," I said. "She was poisoned. Slowly over weeks. Thallium sulfate. Colorless, odorless. Perfectly mimics natural illness." Scarlett's eyes widened. Real fear surfaced for the first time. "Cordelia had coffee with a new friend from church the morning she collapsed," I continued. "Someone new in town. Someone seeking access to our family." I stepped closer. "You killed my wife to reach my son. You married him, waited 4 years, then brought back the daughter you abandoned, disguised as an adoptee to secure your inheritance." Scarlett backed toward the door. "You're all insane. None of this will stand." "Security cameras recorded you yesterday," Cole said flatly. He played the footage. Scarlett's voice filled the room. "You all had everything I never did. Money, land, respect. I deserve those things." Her own words, her motive. She was cornered now. No exits, no alibis, no lies left. She looked at each of us, me standing firm, Cole shattered. Rebecca burning with 6 years of grief, then toward the door where Detective Ramsey waited. Something finally broke. The mask dissolved completely. The performance vanished. What remained was cold, empty, and human. Scarlett laughed. It was a dry, chilling sound that made my skin crawl. And in that moment, I knew she wasn't going to deny anything anymore. Not because she felt remorse, but because she wanted us to understand just how clever she believed she'd been. Scarlett laughed, cold, lucid, utterly without shame. "You're right, about all of it." My heart clenched. She was actually going to confess. Landon was weak, couldn't handle a woman who was smarter than him, stronger than him. When he threatened to cut me off to revise his will back to his pathetic sister, she glanced at Rebecca with contempt. I made it look like market losses had driven him to despair. One good shove from behind and he jumped from his office. Tragic. She turned to me. "Cordelia was collateral damage. A nice woman, really. But she was in my way. You had money, land, a legacy built over generations. Everything I deserved but never had because I wasn't born into the right family. So you poisoned her," I said, my voice shaking. "For months. Thallium in her coffee. Easy to obtain if you know where to look. Mimics natural illness perfectly." Scarlett smiled. "I was her friend from church. She trusted me completely." Cole made a strangled sound. Scarlett turned to him. "And you pathetically easy. A lonely widower's son, desperate for family after Mommy died. You would have married anyone who paid attention to you." Her voice dripped with contempt. "Harper was just leverage. My own daughter, yes, mine and Landon's. But she didn't fit the timeline when I needed to disappear. So I abandoned her. Then years later, she became the perfect tool. An adopted child is a legal heir. I'd control her inheritance until she turned 18. By then, you'd all be gone anyway." "Gone?" Paul's voice was ice. "You mean murdered?" Scarlett shrugged. "Accidents happen. Old men have heart attacks. Ranchers have machinery malfunctions. I had at least another decade to plan it properly. You think you've won?" Her laugh was sharp, mocking. "My lawyers will destroy this. Entrapment, coercion, the paranoid delusions of a grieving widower." The front door opened. Detective Sloan entered with 2 uniformed officers. "Scarlett Graves, you're under arrest for the murders of Landon Merrick and Cordelia Graves. Fraud, child abandonment, and conspiracy to commit murder." Sloane's voice was professional final. "You have the right to remain silent." Scarlett's face contorted with fury. "This is a setup. You can't use that confession." "Actually, we can." Cole was informed of his right to record conversations for self-defense purposes. "Every word you just said is admissible evidence." "You bastard!" Scarlett lunged at Cole. The officers caught her forcing her hands behind her back. Handcuffs clicked into place. As they dragged her toward the door, she screamed at me, "Harper's still my daughter. I'll get custody from prison. You'll never be rid of me." Then she was gone. The door closed, sudden crushing silence. Cole collapsed into his chair, his face in his hands, sobbing. "I married her. I brought her into our family. Mom died because of me. I knelt beside my son. No, she was a predator. You were her victim. Your mother died because the sociopath want our money, not because of you." Rebecca touched Cole's shoulder gently. "I'm sorry you had to go through this, but thank you. You got justice for my brother, and for your mother." Sloane lingered in the doorway. "We'll need full statements. Tomorrow's fine. Cole, go be with your daughter. She'll need you tonight." Cole looked up, his face ravaged. "Harper? How do I tell a 5-year-old that her mother's a killer? One day at a time," I said. "We'll do it together." An hour later, Briggs brought Harper home. She ran to Cole with open arms. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" Cole picked her up, held her so tight I thought he'd never let go. "Mommy had to go away for a while, sweetheart. Is she coming back?" Cole looked at me over Harper's curls. I nodded. "No, baby, she's not coming back." Harper considered this with 5-year-old seriousness. "So I get to stay with you and Grandpa Paul." Cole's voice broke. Yes, you do." Justice had been served. The killer was behind bars. Harper had a real family now, but the journey to this moment had cost us everything we'd taken for granted. The scars would remain, some visible, most not. Yet we'd survived, and in that survival we'd become stronger than we'd been before. 3 months after Scarlett's arrest, I found myself in a courtroom, again not to watch her be sentenced, but to witness my son officially adopt the daughter of the woman who murdered his mother. Life, I'd learned, was never anything but complicated. Scarlett's trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming, the recording of her smug confession medical records, confirming thallium poisoning in Cordelia's preserved hair samples. Rebecca Merrick's testimony about Landon's death. Marlo Winter's records of Harper's abandonment, and criminology experts analyzing her behavioral patterns. Scarlett's defense attorney tried fighting by citing illegal evidence collection, but Judge Kane dismissed every objection. The jury took less than 2 hours to convict. Scarlett Marsh, also known as Victoria Lang Jennifer Adams, and probably other identities we'd never uncover, received 2 consecutive life sentences without parole at Colorado Women's Correctional Facility for first-degree murder in the cases of Landon. Merrick and Cordelia Graves, plus multiple counts of fraud, child abandonment, and inheritance conspiracy. Cole didn't attend the sentencing. He'd been present in court every day of the trial, trying to comprehend how completely he'd been deceived. But on sentencing day, he stayed home with Harper, painting her new bedroom lavender with glow-in-the-dark stars. But today was different. Today we came to La Plata County Court to make something official that had been true in my heart for 3 months. Judge Maureen Rodriguez smiled down at Harper, who sat between Cole and me in a fancy green dress Marlo had helped pick out. Briggs sat in the row behind us, handkerchief in hand. Rebecca Merrick had flown from Denver to attend. She was part of this family, now bound by shared grief and shared pursuit of justice. "Mr. Cole Graves," Judge Rodriguez said, her voice warm but solemn. "Today this court officially recognizes you as the legal father of Harper Elizabeth Graves. She is your daughter by law as well as in heart. Congratulations." Applause filled the small courtroom. Harper clapped wildly, not entirely understanding, but delighted that all the people she loved were happy. Cole bent down to hug Harper, his shoulders shaking. I placed my hand on my son's back, this brave, resilient man who'd survived unimaginable betrayal and chosen love anyway. "Would you like to say anything, Mr. Graves?" the judge asked Cole. He wiped his eyes, then looked at Harper. "You're the greatest gift of my life. I'll always protect you." I thought of Cordelia, how she would have loved this moment, how she loved all children fiercely, and I thought that maybe, somehow, she knew. Maybe she was here in this room smiling as our family, broken and rebuilt, became whole again. A small celebration at Graves Ranch. That evening back at the ranch, we gathered in the living room, a small group, Cole Harper, me, Briggs, Marlo, and Rebecca, who was visiting from Denver. Harper was decorating the Christmas tree, giggling as she hung ornaments, a normal childhood moment. I stood in the kitchen making hot chocolate from Cordelia's recipe. Cole walked in. "Dad, I wanted to thank you for not giving up, for seeing what I couldn't." "I almost didn't see it either," I said. "She was very convincing. If you hadn't investigated? Cole's voice cracked. I might be dead by now. Harper definitely would be. We protected each other, I said. That's what families do. Cole hesitated. Do you think I'll ever trust anyone again? Romantically, I mean, yes, I said. But you'll be smarter. You'll watch for red flags. Healthy skepticism will keep you safe. What red flags did I miss? I listed them. She appeared right after a tragedy. No verifiable past. Pushed for control. Suddenly isolated you. Too perfect. Cole nodded slowly. I'll remember. Dad, Grandpa, come look. I got the star on top. Harper called from the living room. We walked out together 3 generations, and our chosen family standing around the tree. This wasn't the family Cordelia and I once imagined, but it was real, built on truth instead of lies. Somehow that made it stronger. Late night, I stood alone on the porch, snow falling softly. Looking up at the stars, I thought of Cordelia. We did it, sweetheart. We protected them. I reflected on the themes. Trust but verify. Cordelia taught me trust. Scarlett taught me verification. Truth matters more than peace. Exposing the truth shattered Cole's world temporarily, but lies would have destroyed it permanently. Protect the vulnerable. Harper was a pawn in Scarlett's game. Now she's a love child with a real future. Delayed justice isn't denied justice. Landon and Cordelia got justice. 6 years late and 5 years late, but justice nonetheless. Red flags matter. I made Cole a list of warning signs. I hope he never needs it, but if he does, it'll be ready. Healing is possible. We're not the family we were. We have scars, but we're healing. Together. Grandpa, why are you out here? Harper appeared in the doorway. Just thinking, sweetheart. Come here. She climbed into my lap wrapped in a blanket. Do you miss Grandma? A little, but I'm also happy, because now I have you. I wish I knew her. I'll tell you stories about her. Harper yawned. Grandpa are bad people, always bad. I paused a teaching moment. Some people make very bad choices, but you're surrounded by people who make good choices. People who love you. That makes all the difference. I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart. 6 months ago, I thought my family was complete. I was wrong. That family was built on lies and murder. This family broken, rebuilt, and stronger. This is the real one. We lost people we loved. We faced horrors we never imagined. But we survived. And in that survival, we learned that truth, no matter how painful, is always better than the most comfortable lie. Because only truth can set you free. Only truth can keep you safe. Looking back on this journey, I see how close we came to losing everything. I trusted too easily at first, ignored the whispers of doubt, and almost paid the ultimate price. Don't be like me. Don't wait until the evidence is overwhelming before you listen to your instincts. God gave us intuition for a reason, and I nearly ignored his warning signs. This is a true story, one I never imagined living through. When I share these grandpa stories with Harper now, I make sure she understands evil can wear a beautiful mask, but God's truth always prevails, if we're brave enough to seek it. The Bible says the truth will set you free, and I learned that freedom comes with a cost, but slavery to lies costs far more. My advice to anyone reading this true story: trust but verify. Love deeply, but watch carefully. God doesn't call us to be naive. He calls us to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. I wish I'd remembered that sooner. I wish I'd protected my family before Cordelia was taken from us. But through his grace, even that tragedy was used to save Cole and Harper from a worse fate. These grandpa stories aren't just entertainment. They're lessons carved from real pain and real survival. If you've lived through deception or fought for truth, you know exactly what I mean. Please leave a comment below sharing your experience. Hit that share button so others can learn from this true story. And subscribe to this channel for more grandpa stories about resilience, faith, and protecting the people you love.